Hello everyone, Strategist here, and I owe you guys a bit of a status of the channel video, and I've got a humor story at the end of it. Just so everyone's aware, I am still here, the videos are coming, it's just the end of the semester. Between family, projects, group projects, homework, lots of homework, more homework, 10-page reports, so on and so forth, I have been massively backlogged. However, this is basically the last week for homework. Next week is the last week of the semester, and basically every teacher, as far as I can tell, is going to use that for a bit of review, because the week after that is when our finals are. So there has been a bit of a hiatus to the videos. I try to keep putting them out, but my brain has been getting more and more frazzled, just spinning so many discs and trying to make sure not so many of them fall down. I still have about 8 or so hours of Excel homework to do because I am a bit behind in one of my management analysis classes. So for that, I do apologize, but hopefully I can soothe you with a bit of an entertaining story this week that also will lead into a genre of videos. This particular genre, I'm going to call the Morgan effect. So before I get into what Morgan did for this particular story, we need to discuss what makes a Morgan. So yes, Morgan is a real name. It is their name, and normally I would try to avoid real names. But two things prevent it for this brand of stories. One, Morgan is really successful in a lot of these videos, almost humorously, in a lot of these stories, almost humorously. Two, there appears to be a real-world effect to the Morgan effect, so if you were to try to copy it and it wasn't named Morgan, you wouldn't be able to do the Morgan effect yourself. So we're going to go with Morgan. Near as I can tell, I've told people versions of these stories plenty of times, and I don't think, like I said, it does not demean Morgan in any way. So continuing on, Morgan is what I'm going to call a Southern philosopher. Saying redneck would not be appropriate, but he is Southern. A lot of people who are outside the country, if I say redneck, you kind of start getting close to the idea. He is very Southern. He has a bit of a drawl. He has that mentality. But for some reason, whatever he says things, even if he says it like, well, why don't you just do this? It always comes out being right. He is the type of person where he will not know necessarily all the definitions of words. Like, he's not going to know all the words, but he can effectively get his point across, and God help you if you need a mechanic and this man is not around. I swear, you could sell him a car that hasn't run for 6 years, and he'll drive off in it without putting fuel in it. I don't know how. The man is gifted. The man is gifted by whatever divine being that you wish to pertain to. This man is gifted. He miraculously goes through life being correct in the end, but nobody can fucking explain it, and neither can him. He is a miraculous being worthy of study. Just a lot of people tend to not know this when listening to him talk like this. What does that mean? Why would you do that? It's the Morgan effect. It is success through not knowing that you shouldn't have probably succeeded in that. It's confidence personified. So in any RPG, be it a video game or pen and paper, what have you, the dice or number generation systems always favor Morgan. Just like engineering, for some reason, favors Morgan. Dice favors Morgan. Random number generators favor Morgan. This man always succeeds doing the goofiest shit. So in this particular story, which I'm going to have in the title below, this is about the "You Took My Biscuit" story. I was DMing Warhammer 40k. In particular, the Dark Heresy set of rules. Right now, they're on the 2nd edition. We were, at the time, playing on the 1st edition. It is a game, if you are unaware of this particular game, where everyone will die. It uses a system of essentially extra lives, and because everyone's going to die probably about once every session or every other session. It is not one that you are going to succeed in the long term. Everyone has, at the start, basically 1 to 5 hit points, or a variable of 1 to 5, plus 8, 9, or 10, depending upon what type of world they came from. But weapons tend to be on the scales of D10s. And some of them are automatic, and some of them are very of effect. There's lots of death that goes on it. There is a campaign, or I say campaign, there's an adventure path that is supposed to be an introduction to the rule set in general. So I will be spoiling a room of it, but really this room didn't go anywhere near the way your room is, so I really don't even see the need for spoiler alerts or anything along the lines. But the party has to investigate essentially mysterious disappearances. They have to investigate something sketchy, and it kind of leads them to what I recall is basically like a homeless shelter / hostel. It's where the people who are down and out go so that they can be fed by the mercy of others. So the group goes into this, and they're trying to disguise themselves and pretend. By the way, everyone is Inquisitors in the Dark Heresy rulebook. I should have made this clear. Everyone is basically a police force investigating demons, corruption, aliens, so on and so forth. I assume most people, if I say Warhammer 40K, gets the idea of what the Inquisition is. So they're investigating, but they're not full Inquisitors. They're agents of an Inquisitor. So they have to do things on the down low, bit by the book, so to speak. So they're investigating this hostel, or this homeless shelter. Again, I don't quite remember what it classified as. And they're in this room, this rather long room, and they're supposed to be getting food. Like, it's the dinner time. Everyone, they're about to start eating. They're very, very dry biscuits, and they're very, very watery soup. And one of the players notices that there's basically a statue at the end of the room. And he looks at it a bit, and, he succeeds at his rolls. And I'm like, well, maybe there's something there. You're not quite sure. You need to really investigate for me to give you, any further information. And I'm not sure you want to draw attention to yourself as you are undercover. And the player agrees. So the player sits there, and he comes up with an idea. And he's like, okay, well, this is what I need to do. What I need to do is I need to, I don't think I need that long. I just need a distraction. So the player sits there, and he turns to Morgan, and he goes, Morgan, I need a distraction. Morgan goes, okay. And he sits there and thinks about it, and he thinks about it, and he goes, all right. And he looks to the guy, and he goes, I look to the guy on my left. Who's the guy sitting next to me? I describe him as, this guy who appears to be very old. He's wrinkly, he's downtrodden. If the guy worked another day in his life, he'd probably just die of a heart attack. This man is existing day by day, probably upon this very meal. And he goes, well, all right then. I look over at him, I go, hey you. This old folk goes, huh? Morgan goes, you took my biscuit. I roll an attack roll. What? He goes, don't worry, I'm just going to hit him. So he rolls an attack roll. He goes, I'm going to bop him in the face. I'm going to punch his jaw. Okay. So he rolls his attack roll against this man's head, and he succeeds. The dude has no defense worth anything. And even then, his Morgan's skill at hitting with melee is sufficient. He's kind of built up a close range melee / shotgun character. And he hits him, and it succeeds. And when he goes to roll damage, it would be a D5, except for, of course, everything in this game is a D10. And this game does have critical hits, but critical hits work a bit differently. In Dark Heresy, what happens is if you roll a 10 on your D10, you roll your attack roll again. If the second attack roll is a success, then you have confirmed your crit and you get to roll another D10. At this point, though, every 0 you roll or every 10 you roll is automatically confirmed. It adds to the thing. It's called Righteous Fury. You just roll another die. You just keep rolling until you stop rolling 10s. Now, admittedly, for bludgeoning damage, every time it's a 10, it's halved. It's 5 because he's unarmed. But he goes, okay, I hit him. Sure enough, he rolls it. Boom. 10. This old man's going to be feeling it. Confirm the roll. He rolls his attack roll again. He confirms it. All right, then roll another damage die. 10. This is not looking good for old man McGillicuddy here. So he goes, all right, roll it again. 10. Roll it again. 10. Roll it again. Finally, he gets a 7, which halved and round down only equates to a 3. So he's basically rolled 5, 5, 5, 5, 3, and it all gets added together. And he had like a strength modifier of like 4 or something like that. So he did somewhere between like 23 and 27 damage to this gentleman's head. Which, if you're going off of what I already said earlier hold on, I'm not on the right thing, 201. For what I said earlier, for how much health you're likely to have, particularly at low levels, this man's not surviving. But it gets worse. Because in Dark Heresy, there is an actual damage type called critical damage. What happens in Dark Heresy is you don't die at 0 or -5 hit points or -10 when your wounds, which is your hit points, is brought to 0. At that point, excess damage is compared against a critical damage table, i.e., if you've taken 5 extra damage to your hand, what does 5 points of critical damage to your hand do? You can get permanently crippled this way. There's energy damage, explosive damage, rending damage, and for bludgeoning, impact damage. So we go to impact damage, and they have it by the body part, and they have head. And Morgan has more than gone above 10. The highest scale goes 1 all the way up to 10 plus. He's gone above 10, except for 10 just adds extra effects. 9 is the critical number of importance here. So we go and look down, and remember, Morgan is supposed to, or at least he's intending to start a little brawl because he's going to create a distraction. He has now punched an octogenarian in the head. And I am now forced to reveal the effect of such a thing, which is the target's head bursts like an overripe fruit and sprays blood, bone, and brain in all directions. Anyone within 4 meters of the target must make an agility test or suffer a -10 penalty to their ballistic and melee weapon scores on their next turn as gore gets in their eyes or on the visors. So, to recap, player 1 wishes to do the smart thing and do an investigation. He needs a distraction, though. So he says to Morgan, please cause a distraction. Morgan's character immediately goes, all right. Hey, you. Huh? You took my biscuit. Boom. And hits him in the head so hard, it explodes like a grenade over everyone within 4 meters. A very poor but rough translation for people who don't go off of meters is to treat it kind of like yards. So basically, anyone within 12 feet is now just covered in blood, brain, and bone. He's exploded this man's poor head. There's nothing left but a stump. Which, of course, causes everybody else in the room to start panicking and to run because they are now all covered in what used to be old Jim Bob or whatever's skull. So they go running out in terror, which of course means that there's nobody inside. There's nobody inside to see the investigator investigating. So he gets angry at Morgan. He's, Morgan, what the fuck was that? Morgan goes, you want a distraction? He's like, yeah, but they know we're here. I wanted a distraction so I could do the investigation without drawing attention to ourselves. And Morgan's only thought to this is, well, it's not you they're looking for, it's me. So, of course, the rest of the group now has to basically do a fight and get out of the room. But the main character did get his round or two of investigating the statue because he told Morgan to cause a distraction, and Morgan caused a distraction. This type of thing will happen a lot in the Morgan Effect stories. Like I said, everything goes his way, just never in the way any other player wants. Like I said, soon I will be back on regular schedules and then some for recording videos and getting them uploaded to YouTube. I just really don't have too much time. And as a matter of fact, the computer that would normally be up so I could have both me recording and something presenting my dual PC, I already have set up for doing Excel documents, so on and so forth. I just realized I was probably going to end up missing another week of videos. So I thought I'd update everyone, give you a bit of a humorous story. And if any of you have a Morgan Effect of your own, because let's face it, there's always that one person that's just a bit too lucky with their dice. Put it in the chat down below. And in the future, especially if people seem to like this type of story, I will have more Morgan Effect stories, as well as more stories about some of my other players. Though the other players are probably going to end up using false names, stuff like that, because some of the other players are just, you wonder. But not Morgan. Morgan's always a good success. Thank you all so much for watching. I will catch you guys next time.